Hi, my name is Meg Cassell. I'm professor of oboe at St. Pete College in St. Petersburg, Florida. Today we're going to be talking about reed adjustment. This is the true art of oboe reed making. And to start us off, I'm going to just play a little bit on my oboe, and then I'm going to share with you what my criteria is for reed adjustment and what it is that I'm actually looking for when I'm refining a reed. Okay, with that little lick, I am feeling for the C's, the mid register and the upper C's. I am listening for between the notes. I am listening for general intonation. I am feeling for comfortability. And then when I went into the low register, I'm feeling and listening for how well they speak, etc. These things are important in terms of what it is that I'm seeking to do in a brand new reed that I haven't even played before. What I will do and share with you right now is what I use to determine these things before I actually play the reed and use it in the horn is the peep. Needs to be somewhere around a C. This is a gliss. When that bend in the tone happens, that's telling me that I have vibration in the middle part of my reed. It's also telling me that I will have the ability to be flexible enough to maybe make intonation changes in the upper register at the end of a long phrase. So this is a functionality that I need in my reed. And then the crow, which ideally is a double octave C. The crow is produced by putting a semi-loose embouchure around the bottom part of the thread. Okay, so I'm going to do that now with a brand new reed. This reed was scraped the other day. It has not yet been played or peeped or anything. I'm checking for leaks by sucking it a little bit. I hear that little pop. It's good enough for me today. It's peeping at about a C sharp, and it feels really tough to play. Oh, and it doesn't crow hardly at all. So, I'm going to look at it in the light. Everything looks pretty good. The first place I will go will be, because the crow is so high, I'm going to make a scrape across the heart, very even from one side to the next, and I'll do that on both sides of the reed. My objective here is to lower the crow. So I'm taking a tiny bit of cane out of the middle part of the reed, provided there's enough in there to begin with. It's important in your rough scrape to not take too much cane off the heart. Okay, all I've done now is one even scrape across the heart on either side. The crow is still high, so I'm going to do it again. The very same adjustment. I'm careful to do short, conservative scrapes. You can never put cane back on, but you can always take a lot off. So I'm very conservative. Notice now that the crow has dropped. In fact, the whole reed has gotten easier to play. So at this point, I'm going to put it in my horn and see what it does. The tone is strange. It feels strange. So the next thing I'm going to do, because the crow is now good, I'm going to now start the tip of the reed, and I'm going to thin the sides of the tip very carefully. Just the sides of the tip. I'm leaving the middle part of the tip exactly as it was. It's important to not scrape clear across at this point, because the center of the tip is a very important part for the stability of the reed. And the sides are going to help focus the sound and make it a little bit easier to play. Predictably, the crow has now gone quite a bit lower. So because it is no longer a double octave C, I'm going to clip the tip a little bit. Clipping the tip will give the reed a little tiny bit more resistance, which won't be bad. With that tiny bit of clipping, you can hear that the crow came back up to a double octave C. The peep now has become very smooth, comfortable sounding, and a comfortable feeling. Okay. There was a hesitation with my first note. That hesitation was uncomfortable. It's not what I predicted. So I'm going to work a little bit more on the tip now. The tip would be still a little bit too thick. When that happens, it's not quite vibrating soon enough. Soon enough would mean as soon as I give it air, there's that little funny hesitation, which means that the tip is not allowing vibration to the reed. So I'm going to scrape the tip now a little bit more generously all the way across. I'm careful to not chip or scrape away the corners or the sides of the tip. I'm going to clip it a little bit, a tiny little bit, because I see some phrase. The crow is very intact. High C is where I want. There's still a tiny little drop off at the end of the C, which means most likely I could clip it one more time. But for right now, this is enough scraping until I break in the reed. What will happen later on, let's say I come back to this reed tomorrow, there's a good chance that the reed will be a little bit more resistant. I will go through the same process of the peeping, the glissing, the glissandoing, and the crowing. And based on the feedback I get from doing those things, that will determine what I do in terms of my scraping the reed. It's very important that I do really what the reed is telling me, that I'm not doing it on theory. If I do it on theory, frequently I will make the wrong adjustment at the wrong time. This concludes our very simple reed adjustment video. Thank you for listening.